Okay, so I'm pretty sure that this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'm hoping there are some EV drivers out there who are going to agree with me, because I think that range anxiety is a construct. Something created by diesel and petrol car owners, maybe even manufacturers if you like a conspiracy, to basically stop people from buying electric cars. But range anxiety is a myth. It's not real. Us EV owners aren't feeling range anxiety every time we hop in our cars. If you don't know me, I'm Jess Shanahan. I'm a motoring journalist and an EV owner. I'm also a petrol head. I love cars, and this channel is all about me talking you through EV ownership, but also car things and stuff that enthusiasts love as well. Range anxiety isn't real. It's something ICE vehicle owners tell themselves to stop themselves getting an electric car. It's fine. An electric car's not for everyone, but us EV owners aren't struggling with range anxiety, and most people won't pass their first few drives. So this argument about range anxiety has been bugging me for some time, because everyone talks about it. It's everywhere in the news. No matter where you are, what you're looking at when you're looking at EVs, there'll be something about range anxiety. And sure, we all look at the miles ticking down when we're driving an electric car, but it's actually not as anxiety-inducing as everyone may have you believe. So getting over that feeling of, oh shit, am I gonna make it to the next charger, is all about just learning your car. And I've had my Renault Zoe for over a year now, and of course I had a couple of drives early on where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I made it every time. I would never run out of charge. But it's all about learning your car, and it's no different to if you have a petrol or diesel car, knowing exactly how many miles you have left when your fuel light comes on, for example. So I know exactly how my Renault Zoe behaves. I know how many miles it'll do around town, how many miles it'll do on the motorway, what I need to think about if it's cold, or how many more miles I'm going to get if it's really warm out. I know how many miles my car will do based on number of factors, and it's not like I'm sitting in my car doing these calculations every time I drive. It's just become part of who I am and part of what I'm doing. It's just natural to think about it in this way now. The first few drives you probably will be keeping an eye on your mileage, but after that you'll begin to relax. Last year I did a road trip from Norfolk to Wales and then all over Wales in a Hyundai Kona EV that I got from Onto on subscription, and not once in that entire journey did I worry about my range or whether I'd make it to another charger, just because the Hyundai Kona, especially out of all of the EVs I've driven, is particularly accurate in how it kind of estimates mileage and things. And it was just easy to kind of relax into the car and just drive it like normal. And we had a great road trip and over hundreds of miles and various different chargers of various different types. Didn't worry about my range or anything like that. Even if we were getting down to the wire, it was fine. And I was very, very relaxed in that car, even though it's not my normal day-to-day vehicle, because that's the Zoe. While the mileage isn't quite as accurate as the Kona, I know that car well enough to know when I need to charge and not have to worry about kind of what I'm doing on my journey. And, you know, there have been times when I've rolled home with like 20 miles left and I've known it's going to be fine because I know the car. So for example, in the Zoe, I know that driving at 70 miles an hour on a motorway or dual carriageway is going to use about 50% more battery than if I was driving under 60 on a smaller road. And I take that into account, but it's automatic now. I'm not thinking about it so hard, but I also know to plan it into my trips. So if you're someone who's thinking of getting an electric car and you've been bombarded by all of the media about range anxiety and not being able to charge and all this kind of stuff, I just want to give you some tips of how you can ease yourself into it and how you can get to that relaxed state that many EV drivers are in as quick as possible. So the first one is to overplan your charging stops for the first few journeys. Nothing is going to give you ongoing anxiety than running out of charge on your first drive. Go out, have a fun drive, do a road trip, but plan your charging stops much closer together than you think you need to, because you'll get to those charging stops and you'll be like, we actually didn't need to stop here. It'll help you kind of settle into how the car works, what the mileage is like, and how your driving style affects mileage as well. So just like I have in my Zoe, think about what kind of driving you're doing and whether or not your mileage is accurate. So I know that in the Zoe that if it says I've got 200 miles range and I know that I need to do 200 miles on a dual carriageway, I'm probably going to get 150, 160 miles, maybe less if it's a bit colder, but I know that and I plan for that. So keep an eye on your mileage as you're doing just your daily driving and look for times where it could be going down quicker than it should, but also times where it's not going down as quickly as it should. So I know that when I get into Norwich, if I'm coming home, get to the big roundabout on the outskirts of Norwich, and I know I'm basically going to use 0 miles off my estimated between there and home. So little things like that, understanding your car in that way and looking out for those things will make life much easier. Another thing to do is to reset your trip meter between vastly different drives. So for example, if you're going on small roads, driving around town, you'll be doing more miles per kilowatt hour of battery that you have. But this then has an effect if you then go and want to do a big old motorway drive, because your car's going to still be thinking that you're going to be doing 4+ miles per kilowatt hour, and it's going to give you a much higher estimate than actually you would have if it knew you were driving on a motorway. For example, if you're driving around town, it might say that you've got 200 miles of range left. As soon as you get onto a dual carriageway, that's going to drop really quickly, and it can be quite nerve-wracking to see that happening if you're new to driving an electric car. If you reset the trip meter, you're going to get a more accurate reading for just general driving rather than the economic in-town driving. And the same goes with if you've done a bunch of motorway driving and you've got quite a low miles per kilowatt hour number, then you're going to be thinking, oh no, why is my car only going to do 120 miles? You know, I'm fully charged. Just reset that trip and you'll get back to that figure that seems more realistic for the estimated range of your car. And just remember that you will get used to estimating the range of your car in different situations. Even if you're not resetting the trip meter or you're not driving particularly economically, there's so many ways that you'll start to be like, oh, I know what I need to do here, or I might just stop and charge here so I can put my foot down for the next stretch of road. There's various ways that you'll start to learn your car, and it's actually quite nice to know a car like that. And anyone who's watching who's also driven ICE vehicles, you'll know that you know your cars like that as well. So, you know, I used to know in my Abarth 500 how many miles I was going to get to a full tank of fuel. It wasn't very many, but I knew exactly how many miles I could do. Obviously I didn't have to plan, you know, petrol station stops. I could have to plan charging stops, but certainly if my fuel light came on, I knew exactly how many miles I had. So I'm not saying that it's not different. It is completely different, in fact, especially when it comes to planning your journeys and the way that you travel, especially if you're doing road trips. But all of the things of estimating mileage, finding charges and planning kind of becomes second nature because it has to. And I think it's a really, really nice way to travel, and it's a nice way to drive, and you get used to it, and there's not this stress that everyone says there will be. In fact, I find driving an electric car very, very calm, very, very soothing. With all that said, I will talk at some point about charging anxiety, because this is a whole other story. Sometimes chargers don't work and there is a little bit of stress associated there, but it's nothing to do with range anxiety, but that's another video. If you'd like to know more about what it's like to live with an EV, check out this playlist that I've created especially for you. I'll see you in the next video.